Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I am very excited to go over the 2024 presidential election results for the state of New Hampshire. And this is a state, honestly, I'm very excited to do a breakdown in because, to be fully transparent with you, this is one I actually got pretty wrong. And honestly, getting a state wrong is more exciting to me than getting a state right, to be honest. But New Hampshire is a state that I thought for sure was going to be a likely Democratic state based on how the state trended from 2016 to 2020. However, the state went from being almost a 10-point win for Joe Biden, or about a 7 to 8-point win in 2020, to being only about a 3-point win for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. So this is a very, very fascinating state, and I'm very excited to break this down county by county for you in this video today. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go through, by population, the largest counties in the state of New Hampshire. There aren't too many of them, so this should not take as long as Maine or some other states will. And I'll go over the populations, what the vote totals were, and take a look back at 2020 and see how the numbers compare. So first things first, in the state of New Hampshire, the largest county in the state is Hillsborough County. And Hillsborough County, according to the United States Census Bureau, I'm using New Hampshire/demographics.com as my source for this information, has a population of about 427,354 people. And in 2024, this county went to Kamala Harris over Donald Trump 51%, 51% to 48%, Harris getting 118,780 votes, Donald Trump getting 112,068 votes. What's fascinating about Hillsborough County's had a trend the last few years of really getting close to accurately predicting the winner of this state. And it does make sense the largest population county in the state would be most representative of the state, but it's also a very competitive county as well. So just really quick, 51-48 in this county ended up being 51-48 statewide. Looking back at 2020, Hillsborough County was 53 for Joe Biden, Donald Trump was 45.3. Statewide, Joe Biden got about 52.7, Donald Trump got about 45.4. So for Joe Biden's numbers, Hillsborough County was only off by 0.3% compared to Biden's statewide percentage. As for Trump, it was only off by 0.1%. So Hillsborough County for the state of New Hampshire, based on the last few elections, seems to be one of those counties where it's very indicative of how the state is going to vote overall, plus or minus about half a percentage point or less. So that's very, very interesting, and something that I just thought was very interesting that I want to point out. So, but for 2024, New Hampshire's Hillsborough County is 51-48. Kamala Harris won here by about 6,700 or so votes. Taking a look inside the county itself, Hillsborough County does have some pretty big population centers, including the city of Nashua, which Kamala Harris defeated Donald Trump in 56% to 43% by about 6,000 or so votes here. Hillsborough County also has the city of Manchester, I believe the largest city in New Hampshire by population. Harris won here 53% to 46%, which when you look back to 2020, I believe is actually an improvement for Donald Trump. Yes, Joe Biden won the state 56%, or the city, I keep saying state, won this city 56% to 42.1%. So Donald Trump actually improving his margins in the city of Manchester. So that's very, very interesting. Nashville was 59.1 to 39.3 back in 2020. So Donald Trump again improving in the city of Nashua as well. Those are the main population centers, but you also do have a lot of close surrounding suburban areas as well. And it's really tricky here because the Rockingham County borderline kind of goes along here from Manchester to Londonderry and to Pelham and Windham. So it's kind of like going down here. So it's really tricky to see because I believe Londonderry is in Rockingham County, but like you have towns like Litchfield, a smaller town outside of Manchester, voting for Trump. You have Bedford, a more wealthier suburb, voting very closely for Kamala Harris by about 3 points. Looking back in 2020, Bedford voted about the same, about 3 points for Biden over Trump. So it's interesting that did not really swing much from 2020. Looking here, Goffstown, this is where St. Anselm College is. They do a lot of polling. We see in the election cycles all the time. Donald Trump won here by about 3%. Back in 2020, Goffstown went for about, 0.7% or so for Trump over Biden. So Trump improved his percentages there from 2020. That's very fascinating as well. And some other towns like New Ipswich, Greensville, Wilton, Amherst, Milford, Merrimack. Obviously, this is where the shopping Merrimack outlets are. If you're from New Hampshire, you'll likely know what those are. This is one of the larger towns in terms of suburbs in Hillsborough County, very close as well. A 3-point win for Harris over Trump, 51-48. Looking back at 2020, Merrimack 52.3 to 45.9. So Merrimack, the town itself, might be a potential contender for matching the statewide result as well, being very close. Hollis was about 56.3, 42.4 back in 2020. Hollis this time around was 55% to Trump's 43%. So it's really interesting. Hillsborough County, a lot of these towns in between Nashua and Manchester. And again, I'm going to show you Rockingham County in 1 second. So Londonderry will be a part of that, as well as Pelham and Windham, some of these areas. But Hillsborough County is a very competitive county. It's got some Republican counties up here as well, like Dunbarton, Ware, New Boston, Francetown. So just very interesting to look at. Very close county. It did end up going for Harris by about 3 points, 51% to 48%. So that's just a brief overview of Hillsborough County. The second largest county in the state is Rockingham County. This one, Donald Trump was actually able to win this county by 3 points, 51% to 48%. Trump winning here by about 5,000 or so votes. Trump getting 102,542. Kamala Harris getting 97,616. This is a flip from 2020, actually, where Joe Biden narrowly won this county 50.3% to 48.2%. This one, Joe Biden won here by a little under 5,000 votes, about 4,800 votes or so. I'm sorry, not 4,800, I'm sorry, 4,200 votes. Joe Biden won Rockingham County. This is typically of Hillsborough County, Rockingham County, and Merrimack County, the three largest by population in the state. Rockingham is the most Republican of the three, and we did see it in 2024 flip back to Donald Trump. That's very, very interesting. Looking at Rockingham County, now we can talk about places like Londonderry, a very fast-growing suburb in New Hampshire, right along Route I-93, this gray line that goes up here. In the I-93 corridor, they call it, the towns that all border the Route 93. A lot of towns are growing quickly. Salem is one of these towns where Donald Trump won here, 59% to 40%. Londonderry is another, as well as neighboring Derry, Windham, Pelham. Atkinson's definitely one. Atkinson, home to Donald Trump's current press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, from the town of Atkinson as well. Derry, Hampstead, Sandown, Chester. So a lot of the I-93 surrounding towns voting for Donald Trump. Just a quick comparison, Salem, I know, is growing very fast, 59% to 40% Trump over Harris. Back in 2020, Salem was 55.9 to 42.8. So still a red town, but Trump actually improved his numbers from 2020. Londonderry was 49.8 for Trump to 48.7 for Biden, about a 1.1% win. This time around, Londonderry went 52% to 47% for Trump over Harris, so Trump is growing his numbers. And Londonderry as well. Windham, 55% for Donald Trump, 44% for Kamala Harris. Looking at 2020, Windham was about 52.5% to 46%, so Trump improving by about a few points out of Windham as well. Pelham was about a 20-point win for Trump in 2020. This time around, it was 62%, 37%, so even more than a 20-point win this time around, about an additional 5% or so, 25% win. So as you can see, especially in Rockingham County, a lot of the red areas in 2020 did vote for Donald Trump, but also voted for him by more red and larger percentages than in 2020. We can also take a town like Atkinson, for instance, a smaller town right outside of Salem, right in the Massachusetts border, not bordering 93 like Salem is, but actually bordering the highway that goes up here, that goes towards the seacoast area. This is a small town right near Plastow, Atkinson, but 58 to 42. And let's see, 2020, Atkinson right here, about 54-48. So Trump improved in this margin as well. Plastow, a 10-point win back in 2020. This time around, a 19% win for Trump. So Trump improving in a lot of these smaller Republican areas. Looking now at New Hampshire's seacoast, Seabrook ended up going 61-38 for Trump over Harris in 2024. Let's see, in 2020 is about 56, 42.5, Trump improving there. Hampton went 53.5, 45.3 for Biden in 2020. This time around, it went about 53-46, so pretty much on par with what it was back in 2020. Northampton, 57-42 for Harris and Trump. Greenland, I'm trying to find Rye here. Rye, 60-39 for Harris over Trump. Let's see what it was back. 62.3, 36.3. So Trump doing a little bit better in Rye, nothing substantial though. The city of Portsmouth, one of the also larger cities in New Hampshire, along with Dover, we'll be getting to in 1 second. 72.5%, 26.1 for Biden and Trump in 2020. This time around, Portsmouth 70-29. So Trump improved by a little bit, by about 3% in this area. Harris did about 2 points worse than Biden. Now I'm going to see if I can find, that's Dover, obviously. I'm looking for Durham. Here it is, Durham, right outside of Dover. This is where the University of New Hampshire is. A very big college town, has a lot of out-of-state people that do go to UNH, sometimes vote in this area. It was 72 to 27% in favor of Harris over Trump. Looking at 2020, Durham was about 76.4 to 22. So Harris doing a little bit worse. Trump actually going up about, 6% or so. So Trump actually gaining significant in the percent margins in the Durham area. And this starts to get into Stratford County as well. So I'm going to cut it off pretty much there for Rockingham County. But Trump pretty much improved in every single Republican town there was in Rockingham County, and either kept pace or improved slightly in some of the Democratic areas as well. So that's something very, very interesting. So that was Rockingham County. And next we have Merrimack County. This is the third largest county in the state with 157,103 people. This is going to be where the capital city of Concord is located. And this one was a 5-point win for Harris over Trump at 52% to 47%. 48,181 votes. Donald Trump, 43,365. About 4,800 votes separating Harris and Trump in this state. And I forget if I mentioned, but statewide, Harris got 418,496. Donald Trump got 395,578. This is a win for Harris of about, 23,000 or so votes statewide overall. About 5,000 votes came out of Merrimack County. About 6,000 votes came out, or almost 7,000 votes came out of Hillsborough County. And now we just go out the rest of the state as well. I think Grafton County is going to make up the margin for how Harris won. So the margins in Hillsborough, Merrimack, and Grafton pretty much made up the margins for Harris to win over Trump very, very narrowly, as well as Stratford's 9,000 as well. But as for Merrimack County, 52%, 47%. Back in 2020, it was 54 to 44 in terms of percentages. Biden won over Trump here by close to about, what's that going to be, 9,500 votes or so, about 9,500 votes out of Merrimack. This time around, the margin of difference was about 5,000. So Trump did much better in Merrimack County this time around than in 2020, which certainly contributed to the more closeness of this race. Looking at it, you have to start with the city of Concord and go from there. Concord voted for Harris over Trump 63% to 36%. Looking at Concord in 2020, it was about 65-33. So actually, the city of Concord itself voted relatively similar. Trump maybe did about 1% better in Concord. In a town like Bow, a surrounding suburb of Concord, a wealthier suburb, Harris won here 57-42. Bow in 2020 was about 59-39, so Trump did about 2 points better in Bow this time around. Pembroke, a suburb of Concord, voted 50.6 for Biden, 47.6 for Trump. This time around, it actually went for Trump 50-49, so Trump improving in a suburban area surrounding a city. Dumbarton, I expect we'll see similar. We have Webster, Boscawen, Canterbury, Loudoun, Pittsfield. Let's see what else we have here. Now we're getting back into Hillsborough County, sort of on the border. With here, looking up for, I know I want to look at the town of Hooksett. I believe that's actually in between Manchester. Here's between Manchester and Concord. So this one might have been able to be in Hillsborough County, but Trump won this town 52% to 47% by about 400 votes. Looking back in 2020, Hooksett was about 51.1 to 47.3, a margin of about 300 votes. So Trump improving, and Hooksett as well by about 1%. The trend so far in the early counties of New Hampshire in 2024 has been Trump pretty much improved in all the Republican counties, including in several key suburban counties that did vote for Biden in 2020. Trump improved in a lot of these areas that we've seen so far in the three largest counties of the state. Going up, you're getting into some of the lakes regions where it's going on the border with some of the other counties. For instance, we have Tilton, we have Andover, Salisbury, Boscawen, we already mentioned Webster. These are getting into the smaller counties, getting closer, I believe, to Belknap County. So, going to pretty much stop it there for Merrimack. But again, the third largest county. Trump is so far, based on 2024 results, Trump has done better in Rockingham County than he did in 2020. Trump has done better in Hillsborough County than he's done in 2020. And Trump has done better in Merrimack County than he did in 2020. So very impressive from there. Shows why New Hampshire went from being about an 8-point win to about a 3-point win. Now we're looking at number 4. We have Strafford County, 133,243 votes. Strafford, right here, this is where the city of Dover is, and I believe incorporates parts of Portsmouth, maybe only a few, not too much, because I know Portsmouth is like kind of right here, right in the border of Maine with Kittery, Maine. But Strafford voted 56% to 43% for Harris over Trump, 42,374 to Trump's 33,163. So about a 9,000 vote win for Harris over Trump in Strafford in 2024. In 2020, Biden won here 56.6% to 41.4, a win of about 11,000 votes, 11,300 votes. So Trump did about 2,000 votes better in Strafford County against Kamala Harris than Joe Biden did in 2020. Also, Trump improving by about 2 percentage points as well. So again, you're starting to see why Trump doing better in all these counties in 2024. While yes, it was not enough to win the state, it wasn't really expected Trump was going to be even in play in New Hampshire all that much. And yet, it was still a very close race where several counties ended up improving Trump's margin. So Trump certainly outperformed a lot of expectations in New Hampshire, including in a Democratic expected county like Strafford County. Looking at Strafford County, I mentioned the city of Dover, 65-34 for Harris over Trump. Looking back at 2020, Dover was about 65-33, so Trump ran about 1 point better here. Rochester, suburban town right outside of Dover, Trump defeated Biden here by about 49.5 to 48.1, about a 1.4% victory. Looking now, Rochester voted 51 to 48%, so Trump doing about 1.5 to 2% better than he did in 2020, winning this town by about 600 votes, so definitely improving there. Barrington, another suburb of Dover, voted for Harris over Trump by about 5%, 52% to 47%. Looking back in 2020, Barrington voted about 7% for Biden over Trump. So again, Trump making inroads in a suburban Democratic suburb. 50.6 to 46.9 out of Nottingham in 2020 for Biden over Trump. This time around, Nottingham went for Trump, 49.9 to 49.1. Again, just a handful of examples of suburban areas doing much better for Trump in 2024 than they did in 2020. Epping, 55% for Trump, 44% for Harris. Looking now, Epping in 2020 was about 52.1 to 46.1, so about a 6-point win in 2020. I want to get, again, about an 11-point win for Trump in 2024. Trump doing better in Epping as well. Getting into this area as well, we have Stratham, Exeter. This is where obviously Phillips Exeter is, 66% to 33% Harris over Trump. Looking back in 2020, Exeter being about 66-32, so pretty much in line with what it was. Stratham, 60.3, 38.6. And again, this time it was 60 to 39. So a lot of the Democratic areas surrounding Dover and Portsmouth stayed pretty Democratic, maybe moving 1 or 2% towards Donald Trump, but nothing really significant. The key areas of growth for Donald Trump were in the suburbs like Rochester, like Barrington, like Nottingham, like Deerfield, Northwood, Stratford, Farmington. These are the areas that have been growing more and more towards Donald Trump since 2020 and showed an impressive growth for Trump's numbers. So that was Strafford County. Now we're looking at number 5. We're looking at Grafton County, 5th largest county in the state, halfway through, 93,146 people living in Grafton County. Looking at Grafton County in 2024, Kamala Harris won this county by 20 points, 59% to 39% for Harris over Trump, a margin of victory of about 11,000, nearly 11,000 votes, but 11,080 votes or so if you want to get precise. And this is about a 20% win. Back in 2020, it was 61.5 to 36.9. So this would have been about a 24-point win back in 2020, only a 20-point win in 2024. So again, Trump improving here by about 4% from the 2020 election. Looking countywide in Grafton, you do have a lot of smaller towns, but a lot of Democratic areas. One that is not is the city or town of Hanover. This is where the University of Dartmouth, Dartmouth College, the Ivy League school is located. Hanover, 85% to 14% for Harris over Trump. Interested to look at what it was compared to 2020. Hanover's 87.3 to 12%. So Trump, again, doing about 1 to 2% better. Pretty consistent with some of the other Democratic areas we've seen statewide. You have a town like Lebanon, 74-24, Harris over Trump. Plainfield, a smaller town as well, Grantham, Enfield, Canaan, let's see, Dorchester, very small, Lyme, Orfield, Piermont, Warren. It goes along through here, a lot of them. You do get into some very smaller towns, but some more close towns as well, like the town of Lincoln. Kamala Harris won here 54% to 44%. Looking back in 2020 is about 55.6 to 43. Trump running about 1 point better in Lincoln. Some towns like Woodstock, about a 5-point win for Harris. Thornton, about a 9-point win for Harris. Campton, Plymouth, Holderness. Let's see, we get more into the Franconia region now as well, where Franconia was 66% for Harris over Trump. Again, these areas, not many people live here. They are smaller populations, but the percentages matter in a very close race like this one was in 2024. Bethlehem, Harris defeated Trump 61% to 37%. Looking at 2020, Bethlehem was about 61-37, so that was pretty much in line. Franconia 67.7 to 31 back in 2020. Carroll, Trump narrowly won here by about 0.2%. This time around, Trump won Carroll by about 4%, so Trump improving his numbers there. Looking now, let's see, moving towards Whitefield and Jefferson. Jefferson, this is getting near the Mount Washington area as well. I believe Sergeant's Purchase is somewhere over here. This is where the Mount Washington area is. Jefferson voting about 62% to 37% for Trump. Randolph, we have Gorham. Is there no voting information out of Bartlett? Here it is. Bartlett is over here. Here it is. 62%, 37%. These are all some vacation areas I know about very well. Jackson, 70-29 for Harris. Albany, Waterville Valley, I believe this is where the Sununu's spend a lot of their time as well. Thornton, Campton, Sandwich, Tamworth, Albany. We're getting into some of the other counties up here as well, but I just wanted to show these. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Grafton County. Certainly more of a Democratic county, in large part due to the population of a place like Hanover and some of the areas like Bethlehem and such going through here, but Trump improving about a few points countywide there. So now we're going to go to the sixth largest county. This is Cheshire County. About 77,703 people live in Cheshire. Cheshire, I believe, is right here. Yes, it is. This is where the city of Keene is located as well. Harris won here by about 54% to 45%, a 9% win. A margin of victory of about 4,400 votes. Back in 2020, this county was about a 17% win, 57.7% to 40.5%. So it went from 17 points in 2020 down to about 9 points in 2024. A huge percentage point swing in Cheshire County. Looking at some of the areas over here in Cheshire County, have to start with Keene. Harris won here 66% to 32%, a lead of about 4,400 votes. Looking back in 2020, Keene was 69.2 to 29%, a 40-point win. Trump improving its numbers in Keene. Looking at some other areas as well, we have Marlborough, Swansea, Richmond, Fitzwilliam, Rindge, Jaffrey, Hinsdale, Chesterfield, Westmoreland, Walpole. Again, smaller counties, not a ton of people living in them, but they all start to add up in a very close-wide election. Francistown, Lindenborough, Wilton, let's see, Mason, New Ipswich, Rindge. Let's see, anyone's I've not done yet. Peterborough, Hancock, Antrim, Bennington, Greenfield. And I think that's pretty much it. I know New England College is over here as well, somewhere in this area. So that's not really too much to talk about out of Cheshire County, other than the city of Keene makes up a large population of it. Again, not to mention, it was about 24,579 votes for Kamala Harris. And again, if my math is correct, it's about 8,541 of them come from just Keene alone. So over a third of the Democratic vote comes out of Keene. But we do have a lot of votes coming out of these Democratic towns as well. Peterborough is certainly one of the large ones as well. So that's pretty much all I have to say for Cheshire County. Kind of a quick one, but again, not really too much for me to say there. Next, we have the county of Belknap County, about 65,027 residents. Belknap County right here, Donald Trump won it 56% to 43% over Kamala Harris, a win of about 5,300 votes. back in 2020. It did go for Donald Trump, but it was 54.3 to 43.9. Trump won here by about 10.3 or so percent. And we're going to, again, 10.3, looking now about 13. Trump improving about 3% in Belknap County. And some of these towns I have mentioned briefly already and discussing them. You're going to be looking up here around the Lake Winnipesaukee area. Towns like Meredith, New Hampton, Laconia, Guilford, Moultonborough, Tuftonboro, Wolfboro, very wealthy area as well. Ossipee, Wolfboro actually very, very close. Harris won here by about, 4 votes? Very, very close. Looking back in 2020, Wolfboro, trying to find it, here it goes, won for Donald Trump actually by about 0.3%. So it did go for Harris. It shifted by about 0.4% in that area. So that's very interesting. Let's see. Sandwich as well. Meredith, Laconia. Laconia is on Lake Winnipesaukee as well, one of the first towns you get to on Lake Winnipesaukee. Let's see. You want to see Alton? I know Alton's around here. Now I'm just going off into like New Hampshire towns like I know that I've been to, that I remember, and I'm trying to find. Alton's not too far from Laconia, if I'm correct. If I can't find it, it's not a big deal, but I just want to point that out. But yeah, you have a lot of towns surrounding the Lakes region in New Hampshire and Belknap County. A lot of them did trend towards Donald Trump's direction from 2020 to 2024, like other parts of the state. Now let's do a quick look in 2020, Moultonborough, Tuftonboro, Ossipee, Effingham, Guilford, Laconia, Gilmanton, Alton. Here's Alton, 62 to 36.8. I knew I was going to find it. Trump won here very, very big back in 2020. This time around, Alton went 63-37. So Trump did a tad bit better. Nothing substantial out of Alton, but maybe about 1% or so better there. So that's Belknap County. Now we're going to number 8, Carroll County, 52,448 votes out of Carroll County. Carroll County, you're going to find right here. Donald Trump won this very narrowly, 50.5 to 48.8, 17,407 votes, 16,827, about a 1,000, a little less than 1,000 votes actually, about a 600 vote win for Trump over Harris in Carroll County. However, this is significant as Biden did win this in 2020, 50% to 48.5%. So Trump did flip this county from blue to red. And again, a lot of these areas I've started to go over as well, like in Belknap County, which is right outside of Belknap County as well. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, some of these areas like Albany, Madison, Eaton, Conway. Conway is a very popular skiing destination as well. 57% for Harris, Trump 42%. Looking at 2020, Conway is 57-41, so about pretty much in line. Trump doing about 1% better there. Looking here at Bartlett, 62-37. Jackson, 70-29. Chatham, 51-48. A lot of smaller towns in Carroll County as well. Ossipee and Effingham, I believe we're going to be a part of those. This is going to be more the Belknap area for places like Laconia and Guilford and Belmont and Tilton and Franklin. This is going to be a lot of the area that Belknap is a part of. A lot of the areas I just went over were in Carroll County. So I'm not going to have to rehash all of them. That's kind of where things stand right now. Hart's location, Donald Trump won 54% to 46%. And also, I can't wait to get to Dixville Notch, which I believe is... they have the votes in there. It's high. Dixville Notch out of Coos County. I'll be getting to that one quickly, but that's a very interesting story. So that's Carroll County. Now we're going to look at the final two. We have Sullivan County in 9th with 43,969. So Sullivan County, which is going to be right here. Donald Trump did narrowly win this county, 49.8 to 49.1, winning the county 12,484 votes. Harris, 12,317. A win of just about 170 votes or so out of Sullivan County. Again, flipping a county that was blue in 2020 back to red in 2024. Biden won in 2020 by about 800 votes. So Trump flipping about, 1,000 votes or so to be able to win that county. Very, very impressive there. Sullivan's going to be a lot of the areas we talked about: Charlestown, Langdon, Leominster, Washington, Stoddard, Gilsum, Westmoreland, Walpole. A lot of the smaller suburban areas over here, smaller towns where there's not a ton of votes, but the small towns in these areas do start to add up. Mostly going to be in about this area, sort of like northwest of where Keene is going to be a lot of Sullivan County right here. And lastly, we have the final county to go over in New Hampshire. This is Coos County, Coos, Coos County. 31,372 people live here. This is where you're going to get a lot of the North Country votes up here. Not too many people living here, but still makes up a sizable number. 9,731 for Trump, 56%. 7,355 for Harris, 43%. In comparison to 2020, 52.1%, 46.2%. Trump running about 3 to 4 points better in Coos County than he did in 2020. And this is where you're getting into one of the coolest stories in American politics, Dixville Notch. Every election, presidential election, they are the first ones to count their vote. They vote at midnight. And this time around, it was actually a tie, where Harris got 3 votes, Trump got 3 votes. And based on the result, where Harris won statewide 50.9% to 48.1%, certainly suggested there was going to be a very close election statewide. So, hey, maybe Dixville Notch knew something before everyone else did. But Dixville is one area. The city of Pittsburgh is going to be another area as well. Clarksville, Stewartson, Colebrook, Columbia, Northumberland, Stark, Dummer, Milford, Errol, Milan, Berlin. Berlin's going to be one of the biggest population centers up here in Coos County. You also have some other areas like Lancaster, Dalton, Whitefield, Jefferson. Littleton actually voted red this time, 51% for Donald Trump, 48% for Kamala Harris. Back in 2020, I believe, yes, Littleton voted for Biden, 50% to 48.4%. So again, another case of Trump improving its numbers in a lot of these suburban and rural smaller towns, which again don't have a ton of people, but when they're all added up together, a difference of 20 to 30, 40 votes in each of these towns compared to 2020 ended up making an 8-point race in New Hampshire down to a 3-point race in 2024. So Trump's improvements in these areas led in large part to him doing much better statewide. Not really too much to say other than what we've gone over so far in Coos County, so that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it there. So that's what I have, sir, statewide for all the counties in New Hampshire. Most important to watch for with respect to the other counties are Hillsborough County, Rockingham County, and Merrimack County. These are the 3 largest counties in the entire state, as the population shows. 427,000, 320,000, and Merrimack, the capital of Concord, 157,000. If you want to be technical, Hillsborough and Rockingham are probably more important based on population, and they are very competitive. But when it comes to a close race in New Hampshire, all eyes are on these 3 counties, because Rockingham, for a Republican to win, has to be a Republican county, and based on what we've seen so far, will not be enough for the Republican to win on its own. For the Republican to win, they need to have Hillsborough County likely as well. And this was a 3-point race for Harris over Trump, very, very close, and it ended up being pretty much in line with what the state was. And again, it was only about a 6,000 vote win for Harris over Trump. For a Republican to win statewide in New Hampshire, they're probably going to be winning Hillsborough County. Merrimack, again, a 5-point race, very, very close. The Republicans will probably need to either win or come very close to winning Merrimack to be able to win statewide as well, because there's going to be a huge Democratic turnout in Grafton County, a margin of victory of about 10,000 or so votes, and there's going to be a big win for Democrats in Stratford County, a margin of about 9,000 votes. So Republicans need to run up the numbers in Rockingham, Hillsborough, and Merrimack to have a realistic shot at winning statewide, when you have Democratic areas like Cheshire, Stratford, and Grafton kind of making up the difference in these 3 areas. So going forward in New Hampshire, for lots of races, I'm sure there's going to be a governor's race in 2026, a very close Senate race in 2026. I know for me personally, I'm watching all my eyes on Hillsborough County, Rockingham County, and Merrimack County. That's the breakdown of New Hampshire's 2024 results. Now we're going to get into a fun part of the video where I look back at my 2024 prediction and see how I did. And I'm going to be doing this for every state. New Hampshire, again, was about a 3-point win for Harris over Donald Trump. My prediction, I actually was way off on this. I had Harris defeating Trump 60.3%. And it wasn't so I was off really too much on Harris's end. Harris got 52.4%. In actuality, she got about 50.9%. So I was off by about 1.6% or so on Harris's end. Trump's end, I was off by 2%. Trump got 48.1%, and I had Trump getting about 46.1%. I was more in line that I thought Harris would do a similar job to Joe Biden in New Hampshire, given how blue the state trended in 2020. But New Hampshire, truly the live free or die state. They often say it's liberal leaning but independent thinking, and it certainly swung back towards Trump's side, even though Harris did win, much more like a liberal or like a independent state than a liberal state. So Harris did win New Hampshire by about 3% or so. Again, I want to get the exact numbers: 50.9, 48.1. That would be about 3.8% or so, coming up on 4 points. So I was off by about 2.5% in New Hampshire. Not ideal, not like the biggest margin that's off by, but certainly one of my more poor performances in a lot of the states was the state of New Hampshire. But I admit, I said up front, New Hampshire was a surprise to me. I did correctly predict that Harris would win the state of New Hampshire, but the margins I was off by a little over 2%, and that Donald Trump did much better than I expected in a lot of small towns, as I showed in this video. Trump really did great in these areas. So that's pretty much all I have for you in today's video. I hope you enjoyed my breakdown of New Hampshire. If you have any other questions about the state of New Hampshire and its election results in 2024, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below asking me them. I'm going to do my best to get back to every comment in this video, so hopefully I can help if you have any questions. In the meantime, while I'm also looking at this, remember you can like this video and click subscribe to my channel so you don't miss when I post videos like this one going forward. I will be doing the state of Vermont next as I go through every single state in the United States 2024 presidential election results, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. That will do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a like, and if you really liked it, please remember to click the subscribe button, and make sure you turn post notifications on so you always get notified when I post a new video. That way you never miss one. Also, please remember to share this video with your friends and family if you really like the video. And remember to stay tuned because I'll be posting at least one video every single day leading up until Election Day. So I'd really appreciate it if you keep coming back and watching those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.